What if I told you that your DNA was your prison? That every breath you took, every choice you made, every breakdown you suffered was decided generations before you were born? For centuries, the most powerful families on Earth played a dangerous game. They traded human genetics for political dominance. They sacrificed their daughters, their sons, their bloodlines on the altar of royal purity. The result wasn't just tragic. It was devastating. Shattered minds trapped in broken bodies. Family trees that didn't branch, they twisted back on themselves like snakes eating their own tails. These women wore crowns, but they carried curses. And by the time we reach number 1, you'll understand just how far humanity was willing to go in the name of power. Today, we're diving into the heartbreaking, disturbing, and absolutely unbelievable stories of history's most inbred women. And trust me, some of these tales will leave you speechless. Starting at number 10, we meet Isabella II of Spain. She ruled from 1833 to 1868, but her reign was never defined by glory or triumph. No, Isabella's life was marked by something far darker. The grim, inescapable cost of generations upon generations of intermarriage. Born in 1830, Isabella entered the world under strange circumstances. Her father had desperately wanted a male heir. He'd prayed for it, planned for it, obsessed over it. So when Isabella arrived as a daughter, the fact that anyone welcomed her at all seemed almost miraculous. But that initial joy, it evaporated quickly. From her very first days, Isabella's health raised concerns. Quiet whispers among the palace physicians, worried glances from her attendants. Something wasn't quite right. And her sister, she suffered too. Here's why. Isabella's birth was the result of a union between an uncle and his niece. Let that sink in for a moment. Her father married his own niece. But it gets worse. Much worse. Her grandparents on one side, they were also her great-grandparents on the other side. Try drawing that family tree without your pen crossing the same names 3, 4, 5 times. It's nearly impossible. This wasn't just close family relations. This was a true labyrinth of lineage, a genetic maze with no exit. At just 16 years old, barely more than a child herself, Isabella was married off. And to whom? Her double second cousin. The family couldn't even look outside their own bloodline for her husband. They doubled down on the very strategy that had already damaged her health. Isabella went on to bear 11 children, 11 lives brought into this world. But here's the heartbreaking reality. Only 5 of them survived past infancy. 6 tiny coffins, 6 funerals, 6 losses that no mother should ever have to endure. And the cause? Genetic complications were almost certainly to blame. But there's another layer to this tragedy that makes it even more complicated. Many historians believe that Isabella's husband, the man she was forced to marry, fathered none of those 5 surviving children. None of them. Their marriage was strained from the beginning. There were personal tensions, unspoken truths, rumors about her husband's identity, his preferences, his inability or unwillingness to fulfill his duties. The palace walls held secrets, and Isabella, trapped in a marriage that was both politically necessary and personally empty, lived her life in the shadow of those secrets. In the end, Isabella lost her crown. She was forced into exile, stripped of power, removed from the throne. But her legacy, that remained. A legacy steeped in the dark shadows of her family's genetic entrapments. A reminder of what happens when power matters more than people. At number 9, we step into the world of Marie-Louise of Austria, a woman born into one of Europe's most deeply, impossibly entangled dynasties. The Habsburgs, a family whose name became synonymous with power, wealth, and something far more sinister. Genetic catastrophe. Marie-Louise's parents were double first cousins. Now, if you're not familiar with what that means, let me break it down for you. They didn't just share one set of grandparents. They shared both sets. Their mothers were sisters. Their fathers were brothers. So when they married, they weren't just keeping it in the family. They were collapsing the family tree entirely. In Marie-Louise's world, cousin marriages weren't the exception. They were the rule, the standard, the expectation. And with that strategy came tragedy. Often, repeatedly, inevitably. Of the 12 children born to her parents, only 7 made it to adulthood. That's a mortality rate that should shock us. 5 children lost, 5 young lives extinguished before they ever had a chance to truly live. But here's where things get truly staggering. Marie-Louise, genetically speaking, had only 4 unique great-grandparents. 4. You and I, we have 8. That's the normal number. That's what a healthy family tree looks like. But Marie-Louise, her family tree had collapsed in on itself so severely that she had half the genetic diversity of a typical person. Scientists today only see that kind of genetic compression in one place. Highly isolated populations, communities cut off from the outside world for generations, small islands, remote villages, places where there simply aren't enough people to avoid intermarriage. But Marie-Louise wasn't from some remote village. She was from one of the most powerful families in Europe. And yet, genetically, she was as isolated as if she'd been born on a deserted island. At 18 years old, still so young, Marie-Louise was handed over in marriage, not to a Habsburg this time. No, this was different. This was political strategy at its most calculated. She was given to Napoleon Bonaparte, the man who had been her father's enemy, the man who had conquered half of Europe, the man who needed one thing from her, a male heir. This wasn't about love. It wasn't even about alliance in the traditional sense. This was an attempt at peace, a desperate move to secure stability. And for Marie-Louise, it was the weight of an entire empire placed squarely on her young shoulders. Imagine being 18. Imagine being torn from everything you know, everyone you love. Imagine being sent to live with a man decades older than you, a man who sees you not as a person, but as a vessel, a means to an end. That was Marie-Louise's reality. Born into genetic chaos, married into political calculation. Her life was never truly her own. At number 8, we make a jarring jump from the grand palaces of Europe to the stark, unsettling realities of a small American town. Because here's the truth that most people don't want to face. The legacy of extreme inbreeding. It isn't just ancient history. It's not something locked safely in the past, buried in dusty royal archives.